All right, what's going on? It's Bobby Skinner talking Giants. Giants win a game. They win a game 31-19. 31 points. Kind of crazy. The Tommy Devito juice from Jersey is real. And Brian Daboll even said that to Arch Stapleton after the game. Obviously, people are going to want to talk about like the Giants not tanking, not having the better pick out of this, right? And they do fall from 2 to 5 after this win. But me personally, I want to have the better pick, obviously. Like, I'm not excited about this win, but I'm also not going to be full of despair when players like Kayvon make plays. Offensive staff schemes guys wide open. So I do want to have a more fleshed out conversation about this on the podcast, but on this reaction pod, I want to talk about these players and these coaches and what they did. Right, and they play the Patriots next week, who are in that top 5, and the Cardinals and Bears probably will win some more games. We'll see, probably. I said it on our preview pod that this game was the best chance for the offense to look competent under Tommy DeVito because they were already a very bad and specifically undisciplined bad defense that traded away their 2 good edge players in Montez Sweat and Chase Young at the trade deadline. Like, they were already really bad before that, and they traded those 2 guys away. And again, specifically undisciplined. Like, their defense is just all out of whack, and you get guys wide open when you just kind of put guys in conflict. And then when the defense creates 6 turnovers, including a pick 6 at the end of the game, like, this leads to the Giants winning a game when we really didn't see them winning a game when they have Tommy DeVito at quarterback. The Giants' offense basically schemed up boomer bust type plays, and I really kind of love that mindset from this coaching staff. And not necessarily boomer bust, but they did boom on a lot of plays. And I think they looked at DeVito, right? And I said this after the second or after like 4 drives because it looked pretty apparent as consistent that they looked at DeVito and said, he's not going to keep us on schedule, really, right? And he's going to take sacks anyways. So let's look for chunk plays. Let's live looking for those chunk plays down the field, and we're going to live with the sacks because we'd have to live with the sacks anyways if we didn't do that, and we'd have to live with the inaccuracies even if we didn't do that. And it led to DeVito having 13.6 yards per completion, 9.5 yards per attempt. Those are amazing numbers. But you also had 9 sacks on 36 dropbacks. So 25% of the time when you threw the ball, you got sacked. But those big, Mike Kafka was able to scheme guys open. Led the big plays to Slayton, Saquon out of the backfield. Daniel Bellinger had a big play up the sideline. But also it leads to like sacks on a screenplay when you have Tommy DeVito at quarterback. But credit to DeVito, when he did hang in there and throw the ball, he put it on these guys and allowed them to make plays and create some yak. But there was also, if you listen to the Brian Daboll press conference, obviously people are going to talk about DeVito. First start, Italian, New Jersey, New York Giants got a win when no one thought they could. But Daboll actually did a pretty good job tempering a lot of that, where it's like, hey, Kafka called a great game, scheme guys wide open. And he did take 9 sacks, and the majority of those weren't on the offensive line. Those were like Tommy DeVito created sacks. He had time to throw, and he just holds on to the ball. And like I said, there's even a screenplay where it's like, throw the damn ball, and he doesn't do it, right? And you look at that 4th down, like the film review that I do this week on that 4th down and 2, I mean, all 3 progressions were wide open, and DeVito doesn't throw the ball and ends up taking a sack. Or he didn't take a sack, but he ended up throwing the ball away. So, and like, I like the way that they did that. They didn't go crazy trying to like, hey, let's just hand the ball off to Saquon and see if we can get through a game. Because you look at the last 2 games with DeVito starting at quarterback, in the first half of games, Saquon has 13 carries for -1 yards. The second half, when teams are playing a little differently, not as keyed in on the run, 14 carries for 146 yards, and they obviously got Saquon involved in the receiving game, who had 2 receiving touchdowns. Who's now leading the team and was already leading the team receiving touchdowns, but now he has 4, and then 6 other players have 1. But defense obviously played a huge part in this game, right? You created 6 turnovers, 3 interceptions, and 3 fumbles, and the Giants scored 24 of the 31 points off of those turnovers, right? You have a 4-play, 68-yard touchdown drive off of the Cordell Flott forced fumble, 5-play, 68-yard touchdown drive off of the Bobby Okereke forced fumble. So not pinning them at the 20, but at least getting them the ball back. Then you have a 46-yard field goal drive off the Darnay Holmes interception, then Isaiah Simmons pick 6 to the end of the game. But Kayvon probably wishes he played the Commanders every single week, but he is heating up as a player. Had 2 sacks, getting him to 10.5 on the season, which is a very huge one. Getting double-digit sacks is a great feat, no matter which way you get there. He's the first player ever in a Wink Martindale scheme to get double-digit sacks, which is, again, a very real accomplishment because Wink Martindale plays so much man coverage, blitzes so much that teams are getting the ball out quick. It's just, Matthew Judon, who I think led the NFL in sacks the 2 previous years before this combined, or was up there in the top 5. He never got 10 sacks in a Wink Martindale defense. And Kayvon also played a complete game, had 2 tackles for a loss, 3 QB hits. Dex had a sack and a QB hit, and I felt like he did a lot more than what the stat sheet showed. So got under the pass, got after the passer and forced Howell to making mistakes. But I also think like Wink Martindale did a good job self-scouting himself because they played the Commanders so well that last game, right? He played a lot of man coverage, but then they started running some rub routes, putting Howell outside the pocket. Well, Wink Martindale kind of changed up, like played in a little more zones, and what led, forced more turnovers. So it's kind of self-scouted. Hey, they're going to be ready for what we had last time. Let's change it up a little bit. So obviously we want to have a higher draft pick, but here's the things that I am happy about. Coaching staff called a great game, right? Doesn't mean a ton in the long run, but this is going to be a slug rest. Like, this is going to be a hard rest of the season to get through for this coaching staff, right? And this is big. This is big for them. Just get a week. Like, kind of instill confidence back, right? And you talk about tanking and stuff. What coach has ever successfully tanked? The one that everyone always pulls up is Doug Peterson, and one that was in the second half of the last game of the year, not playing with 7 games left in the season, and he got fired. So, asking coaches and players to do that. So happy to see the Giants coaches and players play well enough for a win. Obviously was hoping that the Commanders would probably pull that out at the end because I want the higher draft pick. But it is what it is. So we'll have a full pod out. I really do want to flesh out the tanking conversation. And then, hey, talk about these guys, what they did on the field. Tommy Devito, first start, first win. Or no, second start, first win. That's a bad stat. Appreciate you guys, and let's go Big Blue.